Hey everybody, I'm Daniel Beer along with Todd Pianin, and this is Real Estate Exposed on News Radio 600 KOGO. That's 1-800-600-KOGO, or if you'd like to connect with us off air, you can also call in at 858-356-2020. And so we are totally here and excited to kick off this fresh new show. We're going to be unveiling really what it takes to buy and sell real estate in today's market, because there is just so much fog, so much just junk out there being thrown at everybody. And we're going to pick it all apart and really expose how to take advantage, how the industry at times does try to take advantage of the consumer, where the smoke and mirror tactics are, how to avoid them, how to spot them. We're going to explain how to actually find the best deals in the market, why some people seem to always win while others can't make a profitable transaction for the life of them. We're going to cut through all that fog and news that you hear on national media and really talk about how it affects us here locally in our market and what it truly means to you here in San Diego County.
Basically, we're going to empower you to know what is real, what is not, and what's BS, and how to immediately spot it. What we're going to do is we're going to let you ask questions, what questions you should ask your realtors or your lenders to ensure that you're not being taken advantage of, and that you're dealing with the true business person and what's going on, and they're keeping their word. It's basically no BS.
That's right, and that true business person piece is absolutely key because let's face it, it only takes fogging a mirror to enter this business and enter this industry, and because of that, there is so much that you have to know how to not get caught up in doing business with that middle 50% or so that truly may or may not be qualified to do business with you. So what it comes down to is, well, we're going to expose the truth about this industry. Sometimes it won't be pretty, other times it will, but either way, we're going to give you nothing but straight talk on what is now the hottest new morning show, weekend morning show, Real Estate Exposed with Dan and Todd. I'm your host, Daniel Beer, along with Todd Pianin, and good morning, Todd.
Good morning, Dan.
So here's what we have on the slate for you today. We're going to talk about the inventory patterns and how to, what really is the best time to sell a house in San Diego County. A lot of people believe that it is going to be spring and summer because that's just a popular groupthink, but really what do the numbers show? And you're going to find out that it is different. We're going to talk about interest rates. There's been a lot of crazy, wacky things going on. They were rising really throughout the entire year until this past week, and suddenly they've plummeted. We're going to check in with Todd and really find out why. What does it mean for you? How long we can expect this to stick. And then we're going to unveil the ugly truth about one of the most popular business models in real estate, how to spot it, why you need to be careful with it, and really what's the motivation behind the agent promoting it. And then finally, we're going to jump into our what if segment, where we're going to talk about what happens if you simply decide to walk into your local bank branch and get a loan rather than looking for a professional, a professional referral through somebody that's trusted. What's the difference between doing business with someone like that or simply walking into the branch and saying hi to your local Chase or Wells Fargo or Bank of America, guy that's just lucky enough to be sitting there when you walk in.
And they're there for a reason, Dan.
They're there for a reason, sure. And speaking politely, but absolutely, I completely follow that. So, Todd, we're heading basically to the end of March here.
Yep.
Okay, we're rounding out the first quarter of the year, and everywhere I go, I get calls, literally on a daily basis with people asking, or just assuming, hey, Dan, so the spring and the summer is the best time to sell, right?
That's the common myth, Dan.
Well, that's what everybody believes. And here, in all fairness, it is true.
But why?
Because in all fairness, it is true around the country. And for a lot of the country, it is, right? But we're in San Diego. We're not in Vermont. We're not in Nebraska or Maine or in any of these other cold weather states, right? This isn't Minnesota. And so what I've done is I wanted to discover really, is it true or not that is the best time to sell? And here are the findings we had. Okay, we actually studied the fourth quarter numbers, so the winter quarter versus the spring quarter.
Here's we come with the exposed part, right? We're going to expose the truth right now.
Exactly. So we took a look at, is two things. One is how many units are actually selling in the winter versus the spring quarter, and two, how many new listings actually come on the market. because that's the full picture. And so what's interesting is when you actually first look at the winter quarter versus the spring quarter. And by the way, I studied the last cycle because we're only going into the spring quarter now.
Right.
So this is going back to the last full winter and spring quarter we had. What we found was that there was some truth. Okay, so I discovered where the root of it all comes from. There was some truth to the fact that yes, more actual units sold in the spring. Okay, meaning.
So more homes. So basically more homes sell in the spring than they do in the winter. More
homes do, and that was about by a 20% count. Okay?
But how many more homes are on the market in the spring than they are in the summer, Dan?
Exactly. So that's the full picture. So what we discovered is that while 20% more homes did actually sell during that time, there was actually 117% more inventory that came on the market. Okay, you follow me? So in other words, there were 117% more listings new on the market, while only 20%, while we were experiencing only 20% more activity.
Right.
All right. So in other words, the absorption rate was actually far better in the winter quarter than it was in the spring quarter. And in the spring quarter, you were facing tons more competition. There was a lot more product on the market. And if you were a seller, you had to basically... You had a lot more work to do to win that beauty contest.
So what you're saying basically is that if you put your house in the market, let's call fall, winter, for the sake of argument, when there's less inventory on the market, you have less competition. So
you have less competition. That's right. Now I will say this. Okay, this is still the San Diego County, and there's a very consistent demand throughout the year. So even with that, the reason I study this is people always ask me when they should put their home on the market. And so even with that, I still say when you want to put your home on the market is when it fits your family, when it's good for you. I mean, if you completely have the liberty of choice and it makes absolutely zero difference to you then sure. I love that. I love that winter quarter, that first quarter of the year. It's great. We're coming out of that now. We are starting to see inventory rise. It's still extremely low right now, and the conditions are just great for a seller right now in this market. But we will see that inventory level rise. Having said that, a home well marketed, well positioned in San Diego County with our consistent year-round demand, you're going to be absolutely fine to sell so long as you're employing a professional that deserves to be entrusted with the sale of your home.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Right. So that's the truth. Now you know. Now you know what the best time to sell a home is in San Diego County, at least per last year's numbers, and we'll study them again this year and give you an update. This is Real Estate Exposed with Dan Beer and Todd Pianin on News Radio 600 KOGO and iHeartRadio.
News Radio 600 KOGO.
Hey, I'm Daniel Beer here with Todd Pianin. This is Real Estate Exposed on News Radio 600 KOGO. If you need to call in, that's 1-800-600-KOGO. Or, again, you can connect with us off air at 858-356-2020. And, Todd, rates like we'd mentioned in the first segment have been where they were rising through the year. They were dropping all of a sudden this past week, and not just dropping, but plummeting. I actually called you during the week and needed to get a rate quote for somebody, and all of a sudden you threw out this number that was just crazy low, and I, to be honest with you, just kind of was like, what? That can't be right.
Right.
Until you explained.
Fell back in your chair.
Yeah. Yes, I did. What's going on? And I'm going to kick this over to you. And for those listening, just so you understand who we're talking with and who our co-host is, Todd Pianin is one of the premier mortgage brokers in San Diego County, has an absolutely great company, Samuel Scott Financial, that we've been working with on my team for a good long time now. I believe it's been at least 4 years. And Todd, explain this thing to me, explain this to the audience, because truly, I don't understand why were rates rising through the year, and then all of a sudden I take a look this past week when I give you a phone call and they've plummeted through the ground. What's going on? So
what's happening is usually first part of the year you see rates pop back up, and so we saw that. I mean, we did our demo show. Rates had rise for like 18 days in a row because the Fed, which controls interest rates and controls the flow of money, was basically stating that the economy was heating up and things were happening. And so Wall Street and everybody involved with Wall Street was thinking that rates were going to go up, and they're preparing for that. And then just this last week, 2 days ago, as a matter of fact, we got some minutes from Janet Yellen, who's the head of the Fed, and she basically said we were all waiting to hear if she took the word patient out of her response. And she did take the word patient out of her response.
Patient. That's the big deal.
That was the big deal. She did take the word patient out of her response, which would have caused interest rates to go up dramatically. But instead of patient, what she put in was she goes, we're in no hurry to raise interest rates, which then all of a sudden smart money went back into bonds, the 10-year yield went down, and we're seeing mortgage rates back to, we closed at 1.93 on the 10-year on Friday, which we haven't been at those levels for probably months. It's been fantastic for buyers. It's been fantastic for sellers because people can buy more with lower interest rates. So it's actually pretty exciting.
Yeah, I was honestly, like you said, I really did fall back in my chair because I believe it was a jumbo loan you quoted for me, and you gave me a rate under 4, and I just, it didn't seem normal.
It didn't seem normal for me to give you that rate because the week previous to that, I had given you rates in the +4 range on the jumbo money. And it's actually, like I said, it's super exciting because people can actually buy more now with lower interest rates. So you can buy a bigger home today, and you can spend a little bit more money that you thought you were going to spend because, the lower the rate, the lower your payment. So
the payment wouldn't be any different than it would have been on a lower price home.
Correct.
So okay, so fine, we're here. We've look, we've had low rates for years.
Yes.
But within that new normal of low rates, now we have even lower rates.
Yes. Well,
how long does this last? What do we do with it? Like, what am I supposed to tell my clients to, how do we take advantage of this, and what kind of urgency are we looking at?
So my partner, Taisha Lindsay, who, we do a lot of business together, her and I, we always talk about when we meet with a client and how soon or when we should lock them in. And right now we're taking the theory that rates change. It's a really volatile market right now. And if you're meeting with somebody and you're with a trusted advisor and you like the payment and you like you like the interest rate, and we sometimes call it cocktail party talk rate, then I just say lock it in and just, don't worry about that part of the transaction anymore. Don't try to time the market. Don't try to be the guru of, I want to get the lowest interest rate possible. I mean, have you ever like bought a stock, Dan, and like on a tip, and like you don't know when to sell the stock, or you want to make the most money you possibly can in the stock?
Yeah, I mean, in general, or comparing it to real estate or just stocks, it's completely hear you, because it is always the guy that needs to have the absolute lowest, completely hit it at the bottom of the chart. It's near impossible, and they'll normally miss the boat. You want to be somewhere in that trough, right? Somewhere in there. That's where you want to be, and it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to be if you were to lock in something now. But they're not in a hurry. Well, does this mean that we stay here for the rest of the year? I realize I'm asking you this knowing you don't have the crystal ball,
right.
But I also think you have one of the most educated opinions out there. So what do you see coming?
Well, I mean, I think volatility is what I see coming. I mean, you've got to realize, just like, when you sell a home, and you're one of the premier home sellers in San Diego, I would say, and when you represent a buyer or a seller, it's volatility. So every day is different. Sometimes we can get rate changes 2 or 3 times in one day. So think about it like this: that Wall Street doesn't make money if interest rates don't trade. So we're going to see peaks, we're going to see drops, we're going to see all kinds of things. When money changes hands, people make money. So yes, we're in a low right now. Yes, we may go to another low. We may even go lower than we are today, but we're going to pop back up, and then we are going to pop back down, because again, it's all about making money. So what we really try to enforce to our clients is we tell them, if you're comfortable with the payment where it is today and you're comfortable with the interest rate, stop worrying about it. The rates are an all-time low. I mean, in our lifetimes, Dan, do you realize that our parents paid 18% for a 30-year fixed?
Yeah, I mean,
could you imagine selling a house and telling them that you're going to pay 18% for a 30-year fixed?
The truth is that as much as I do know that happened, but I know that because it's something I know because it's been told to me and I've read about it.
Right.
But do I really understand it? Can my brain completely process it? No, it's kind of like trying to understand the number 1 trillion. The brain only can process so big of a number, and 18% kind of goes beyond my threshold. That's amazing.
Let me put it to you another way, though. When you got into the real estate market, values were going crazy. And when people told you that, and me too, people told us that values were just going to keep going up, keep going up, keep going up. And then we had that major correction in the real estate market. Mm-hmm. And you and I had really never lived through anything like that before. I mean, we had not been in the market. We were alive when it happened, last correction, but we never really lived through that piece before. So it was always in our mind. So what I'm trying to say to everyone out there today is, even though we say it's not, we can't believe we're 18%, we can't believe that we were selling 30-year fixed rates at 10% or 12%. Guess what? It was a reality. It can be a reality again. It's not going to happen tomorrow. That would be that's an uncertain, that for sure is a certainty. But what I can tell you is that if you can get a 30-year fixed under 4, or even in the low 4s, that's cheap money. I mean, most of my career, I was selling 5-year money in those numbers, 4%, 5%. So I really wouldn't try to be the interest rate guru, but what can happen, history does repeat itself over and over and over again, as we've seen in the real estate market.
The affordability factor is definitely real, and something that I'm actually kind of putting 2 and 2 together even as we speak right now. But if I look back at the kind of activity we had and the buyer demand that we saw come through on our team this past week, we operate one of the biggest websites out there, SanDiegoHomefinder.com, and it's just a great search engine. But full exposure.
I go on it all the time to find out what's on the market.
But full exposure, though, it is built to create contacts and to, we have people register and volunteer their information, and that's how we do a lot of business. And so we saw the amount of registrations completely go through the roof in the last 48 hours.
Yep.
And I had not correlated that to interest rates, but I bet that there's something there, because when we typically might have, call it 8 or so, people register on the website a day. 2 days ago we had 14, and yesterday we had 10.
Right.
And so I think that there's something definitely there where they're getting pinged by their mortgage brokers and just saying, hey, like, you can now afford the house that you couldn't afford yesterday.
It's also big media. Big media is talking about the rates dropping, right? And talking about, interest rates going through the roof.
So
coming down.
All right, so we have these low rates.
Yes.
Great. What is the, what's out there? What's the program? What's the loan program that isn't being taken advantage of to the degree that it should? Where's the opportunity in the marketplace right now?
Well, funny you should ask that question. One of the craziest things that people don't realize is, as a veteran, and we have a lot of veterans in San Diego County, a lot of people believe that you can only get a loan up to $417,000.
The conforming amount.
Conforming the limit with zero down.
Okay.
We're closing $1 million jumbo loans and doing it on a VA platform.
Mm-hmm.
And VA rates, because it's for the veterans, those rates are cheaper most of the time than traditional financing that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're finding that, asking a simple question, were you in the military and have you ever used your VA eligibility? That's something that's out there.
Because basically there's veterans out there that have done really well, whether it was during the service or in their time after the service,
right,
who, because they're now in the $1 million home market, don't think of themselves as being VA loan eligible, and so they don't bring it up during their application process.
Correct. Like, you have to put some more money down. Like, we did a deal for a client who put down basically 8% and did $1 million mortgage.
Okay.
And he had interviewed 4 different mortgage companies, and everyone was quoting him jumbo rates and quoting him putting down 20, 25, 30% to get him qualified for his mortgage. And I asked him just candidly in the meeting, in the process, because we call ourselves mortgage advisors. We don't call ourselves loan officers.
Sure.
So we want to advise the clients, on everything and anything. And one of the things we asked him was, were you ever in the military? And he said, yeah, back in 1968. I said, have you ever used your VA eligibility? He said,
wow.
I have.
He's not even thinking about it at this point. I mean, that's 1968.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this is when interest rates, 30-year fixed rates, were back up to probably, I would say, the mid 4s.
Right.
So we were able to actually get him a 30-year fixed rate mortgage on a VA financing about, I would say, 0.5 to 3/4 points lower than jumbo money that was out there at the time.
That's awesome. So the VA eligibility will stick through them for their lifetime.
It is with them for the lifetime. They can do multiple VA loans as long as they currently don't have a VA loan.
Well, I love that. And seriously, I have plenty of my own opinions on what we should be doing for veterans and what we're not doing, and that's definitely one area that I'd love to see improvement on. But I can say that VA loan, that's one thing we're definitely doing right as a country. That is the best loan you will ever see in your life. It's just tremendous. And so definitely take advantage of that. I'm Dan Beer, here with Todd Pianon on Real Estate Exposed on News Radio 600 KOGO. And we'll be right back after this. Hey, I'm Dan Beer.
And I'm Todd Pianon.
And this is Real Estate Exposed on News Radio 600 KOGO. Here's the number to call in if you want to ask us a question. It's 1-800-600-KOGO. Or if you'd like to connect with us off air, you can talk to either Todd or I. Would be happy to answer any questions that might be too personal to speak about on air. And that number is 858-356-2020, just like the vision you're going to have once we get through the show. 858-356-2020.
So I'm super excited about this next segment, Dan. So tell me, it's kind of frustrating to me. I see a lot of realtors will take listings at like ridiculous prices. I'll walk around my neighborhood and be all excited because someone took a house for $800,000 more than I paid for my house. I mean, this is something that nobody ever talks about and nobody ever pulls back. Like, why? Explain to me what's going on and why are they thinking about why will a realtor take any listing they can at any price they want? I mean, what's the real deal?
Yeah, and I realize I might have offend some of our fellow agents out there that are operating like this, but this isn't about them. It's not about us. It's about empowering the consumer to spot,
bait and switch
to figure out really how to operate in this industry and how as agents we look to make money.
Right.
Okay. To understand why an agent would walk into your living room and give you any price that you could possibly wish to have on your home and just say yes to you in exchange for having their sign outside your door, we really have to peel back and understand first, who's in the industry,
right?
What does it take to get into the industry?
Is it tough? Is it tough to be a real estate agent?
I like
Dan?
your facetious question because we all know that if you fog a mirror, you can have a license, right? And that's one of the big problems with our industry. There's so much to talk about there. There's so many reasons why that will probably never change. In short, it's just because of the exorbitant fees.
We could have a whole new show on that.
That's a whole another thing. Yeah. But fact of the matter is that even here in San Diego County, we have somewhere between 17,000 and 20,000 licensed real estate agents. Okay, that's a mind-boggling number.
That means that we all probably, just you having your coffee right now, sitting across the table, you probably know 3 or 4 people who just have their license. And
that's right. And you know these 3 or 4 people, but you also know that they're possibly working part-time. They got their license because they were going to sell their sister's house. They got their license because of whatever reason or to supplement their income on, whatever other job. And that's noble. I get that.
They're hobbyists.
They're hobbyists. And yeah, that's fair. So what happens is if you actually look at the real statistics, the average agent in San Diego County will sell roughly 3 to 4 homes a year. Okay? 3 to 4 homes a year.
Dan, I hate to cut in here, but I think that's your weekly average.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, there's a tremendous difference between dealing with a hobbyist and then even dealing with a realtor and then dealing with somebody that's really operating like a business. But what I really want to expose...
Guys, I have to cut in here real quick. Yeah. That's why I like working with the Dan Beer team, because Dan, since the beginning, has always treated his job as a professional and he works 60 hours a week. I mean, even when we're pulling into the parking lot right now, we're running 5 minutes late for the show, and he's on the phone with a client taking a call. So 7:30 this morning, the man's working. So, I mean, I can't express enough to you that what he's going to do and what he's going to tell you right now about what his competitors and other people have done in the past, he's really pulling the veil back in for him to go on this show when he does as much business as he does and to expose, I hate to say the trickery. It's pretty exciting to me, but Dan and his team take their job so professionally and do such a good job that he has nothing to fear. So Dan, sorry to cut you off.
No. I mean that's exactly right. All right, just to talk and speaking modestly, but in truth, okay. Because most agents are going to sell roughly 3 homes or so a year, okay, and if you do the math on that and then take expenses out of, and then pay taxes and then the living expense that it takes to live in San Diego County, it's tough, okay? That's not a lot of income. And so what happens is they don't have they don't have the operating budget to actually produce a dependable business the right way, the way that maybe some of the top professionals will do. So what happens is they adopt a different policy, and that is basically going to your living room when they're lucky enough to get a listing appointment and literally just saying yes to anything that'll get a sign outside your house. Okay, if they can have a sign, a for sale sign with their picture and their phone number outside your home, they're now in business whether or not they ever actually sell your home.
So
okay, and that's the key part.
It's marketing.
It's marketing, but they literally don't need to sell your home, and they can now hope to sell maybe 2 to 3 other homes. And here's how. Someone drives by, they see the sign, they call, they say, hey, I saw your sign on whatever address. Tell me about that house. Oh, that house doesn't fit for me. And then, of course, they now have someone on the phone that they can then swing over to something else and sell them a home. Okay? Zillow. Everyone out there's been on Zillow.
Yep.
It's just a reality of the marketplace. People use it, whether regardless of my own personal feelings on it, but people use Zillow, and they register and they send questions and inquiries through Zillow. Well, guess what? When you have a listing and someone inquires on that property, you'll get that inquiry through Zillow. So now, as this agent that wrote a contract to take a listing on a home that will probably never sell at the exorbitant, crazy price that they signed it for, now got a deal from the guy that drove by. Now has another deal from the guy that inquired on Zillow, has now done 2 extra transactions, and has yet to sell the home that they were actually, that they actually were entrusted to sell by the homeowner.
So
all right, you get that?
So it's like a lost leader. It's like basically,
yeah.
They'll just take the listing so they can get the data points.
That's exactly right. And then not to mention that the neighbor then sees the sign. They're thinking about selling too. The guy gets another phone call. So that is a very common business model in our industry. And I'm looking to get that completely exposed. When you have somebody at your kitchen table that's giving you numbers that just completely don't make any sense whatsoever, here's the beautiful thing about the market. It's not a secret. It's all public data. Okay, the one thing we cannot do as agents is create a fictitious sale next door that then supports the price that you're being promoted by this agent that's sitting at your living room. So what you can do is figure out what their motivation is. How much, do they absolutely need to take your listing at any cost no matter what? Or do they have other business that they can depend on? And to understand that you don't want to be the person being used while people walk through your living room so that they can generate leads elsewhere and create a living for themselves. A lot more to talk about on that, but we do have to head into break. And this is Real Estate Exposed. I'm Daniel Beer.
And I'm Todd Pianin.
And this is News Radio 600 KOGO and iHeartRadio. All right, guys, we're back. I'm Daniel Beer.
And I'm Todd Pianin.
And this is Real Estate Exposed on News Radio 600 KOGO. Again, if you want to call us and ask any question, the number is 800-600 KOGO. Or if you'd like to connect with us off air, that private line is 858-356-2020. That's 858-356-2020.
So, Dan, we got a little cut off in that last segment. I really want you to take me through. I mean, me as a seller, why wouldn't I want someone to list my house for like a magic number that I hope I can get? I mean, I get the whole purpose of, a realtor being able to pick up leads and get all, and kind of build a business around maybe an overpriced listing. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, what happens to I want to sell my house too. I mean, tell me, what's the downside of using that realtor?
Well, I mean, if you're using that realtor, okay, the realtor that showed up, and even though your neighbor's house just sold for $600,
right, and
you have the model match, and somehow yours is magically worth $675, okay. If you want to use that agent, fine. But now I feel my conscience is now clear, right? Because I've now exposed the truth of why that person's doing it. And look, it's not necessarily something to laugh at or anything else. I mean, the truth is that agent probably needs to make their mortgage payment, probably needs to make their rent payment, desperately needs to make one of their 3 sales they're going to make for the year. And honestly, I'm just speaking in factual information. Like, this is real,
right?
Okay, and frankly, whether they're going to sell your home or whether your home is going to be leveraged to make other contacts to whom they will sell homes is not necessarily the most important thing to that person. They're trying to get one of their 3 sales a year. So if you do choose to hire that person, now you're going into it with your eyes wide open, and it's simple. Like I was saying at the end of last segment, it's all public information, right?
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So public information, I get, you farm in my neighborhood, so I get your farming pieces and your magazines. I mean, I see that most of your listings have sold in like 2 days. So so why are you not so I hate to, I'm not trying to be a commercial for Dan Beer, but explain to me, you don't do that. I mean, you sell homes.
I will walk away from any listing that the only thing that's going to result from it is my picture on a sign outside your house, and that's about it, because that's just not our operating model. We just have more than enough, thankfully, business to actually do business with people who do want to sell their home and want to sell it in the real market, not in next year's market or 5 years from now market or some imaginary market. But that's not necessarily anything I could fault a seller for, because I'd probably fall prey to that too if someone came to my house and told me that I had maybe $50,000 that I didn't know were there.
Right.
And that just happens all the time. So what you want to look for is, and when you're really hiring an agent, okay, you're not hiring them to create some price out of thin air for you. What you're really, when you're pricing a home, you're really just creating a price strategy to support the marketing strategy. And you're hiring them because you believe in their marketing platform. It's proven. You've seen them do it over and over. They've done it. They're not guessing at it. They're not reinventing the wheel each time.
They're not just taking my number that I give them and say, this is what I think my house should sell for.
Exactly. They actually have a plan and process in place that will result in the one thing you're actually hiring this agent to do,
which is sell your home.
It is to sell your home. But to sell your home, I'm kind of a very granular thinker, okay? So to sell your home, and I won't go into the entire process now, but to sell your home, what you're really hiring them to do is how do you get there? How do you get there? You get there by having them motivate anybody that's thinking about a home like yours in the marketplace, to have them completely motivated to come and see your home. And if the agent can actually present the market to the house, if they can introduce the market to the house, have them there, have them all there together in a strategic manner where they understand that they're not the only buyer in town, and then the result is the home will sell. But it looks like we have a call on line 1 here. So you're on air with Daniel Beer and Todd Pianin. What's on your mind?
Yes. Good morning. I was listening to your show, and it arises in me several questions. I'm confused. Is it that no one understands that if you have a home and you're going to sell it, that the first thing you do is get the home appraised so that the question of its value is removed from the equation?
That's actually a great question. And so to answer that it's not actually entirely common that home sellers will have their home appraised prior to actually putting their home on the market. However, that is actually something that I've started to do, and I think that there's but you have to understand why you're getting the appraisal and what the appraisal means. Okay, when you're getting your home appraised, what we're really doing it for is so that we can anticipate any objections or problems or obstacles that may arise once we capture the true market value, which is distinct from appraisal value. And here's why. Okay, think about who the appraiser is. The appraiser is somebody who wrote in from who knows where, who gets assigned randomly by a bank, who doesn't even know where your neighborhood is, and puts your address in the GPS, shows up, and 10 minutes later, or whatever, I'm being facetious, but an hour later, supposedly knows exactly to the button what your home value is. Okay, first off, there is no exact home value for any home.
Well, plus they're using past data. They're not using what's actually in escrow. They're only using closed sales.
They're only using closed sales, and they literally don't know the neighborhood. They just arrive, and again, they tell you exactly on the button what the home value is, and there is no specific exact number for any house. Okay, there are appropriate ranges, and then the marketing platform will determine where you fall. But what is your name, sir?
That's kind of what I understood, that there are ranges. I mean, you have an appraiser is not the end-all and be-all of what the price of the home is, but I would expect, if I was selling a home, I would expect first get an appraisal so I know approximately what the bank sees the value of the home at. And
Exactly.
And most appraisers that I've met, and I can't speak as a professional in this because I've only had 3 in my life related to my situation, but they took more interest. I mean, one actually wanted to see the inside of my home and look at the kitchen. I mean, that was my background. I did kitchens and bathrooms.
Right.
And they looked at the home. They wanted to look at the inside. They wanted to see my master bedroom bath. What's the size of the walk-in closet? That was an appraiser, and I had a great deal of respect for him because then I could kind of understand, all right, he's close in the range. Now, let's go get comps. I got my comparables, and now I put that together. Then I talked to neighbors. That's how I ended up with the price of the home as a range, as you said. That's an excellent word.
Michael, and I'm gonna try to answer the rest of your question, and we really appreciate the call. And by the way, if you need to speak off air about anything further, you can also call us at 858-356-2020. But you are extremely wise in what you're saying, because it is all about understanding what the potential bank value will be. Okay, and by that I mean how an appraiser will view it and what kind of information they'll communicate to a bank, because it happens all the time where, through a properly executed marketing plan, the price might be pushed to a number that the appraisal potentially may not support, and if we can have that information ahead of time, then we can try to gather whatever. Just prepare ourselves for that moment, or know we're looking for the cash buyer, or we're looking for the buyer that doesn't have a minimum down payment, so that if the loan to value needs to be adjusted, we're able to do that without losing the deal or having to renegotiate price. There are so many reasons to do that, and so that's a great call and a great question.
That was a great call and a great question. I mean, thanks for the call, Michael. We appreciate it. One of the things that I would say, is besides the appraisal that you need to be aware of, is you want to be using a real estate agent who sells a lot of homes in your neighborhood, because there's a lot of off-market deals or things that are going to come on the market that realtor will know before it comes on. So what that means is that just because an appraised value comes in at X, they're only using things that have closed in the past. They don't know what's going on currently, or what's in escrow, or what's about to hit the market.
Yeah, what's coming.
Yeah, agreed.
Exactly. So, hey, so there you have it. That was
a great call. That was a great call. We appreciate the call, Michael. Thank you.
And so hopefully it's very clear to you guys now. You're looking for that agent that is going to actually introduce, again, the marketplace to your home. The price strategy is complementing the marketing platform. And for that reason, when that's done correctly, you've all seen that done correctly in your neighborhoods. That's when you've seen homes sell over the asking price.
Yep.
And it's because when the entire market is actually there and present and aware of the home, it's not so much about you. It's not so much about your asking price. It's really about them. Johnny's worried about Jimmy and what kind of offer Jimmy's going to make. And that's a tremendous psychological shift from the traditional position a seller finds themselves in.
Great show today, Dan. Great show.
All right, everybody. This is Real Estate Exposed with Dan Beer and Todd Pianin. Anything else, Todd?
Nope. Just give us a call anytime you want after the show, 858-356-2020, and we look forward to speaking with you next week.
Have a beautiful weekend, everybody.